Ryan Meltzer reporting there from Kuala Lumpur. Well, for more on the ASEAN-China Special Summit, let's bring in William Lee, he's Chief Economist for the Milken Institute. William, thanks so much for joining us again. First, I wanted to get your thoughts on the outcomes of today's special summit.
I think this is a very important juncture in the history of China-ASEAN relations, because right now China is on the verge of emerging from being an emerging market into the league of the large countries, and is bringing along ASEAN with it. Unfortunately, a lot of the ASEAN countries still depend upon having China as a trading partner, and now we see that with Xi Jinping being elected as core leader, Xi Jinping's thoughts include a dual circulation strategy where it's uncertain where the external relations will be falling and how the ASEAN countries will fit into this new dual circulation strategy that President Xi has outlined.
Yeah, and I believe that ASEAN is China's largest trading partner, that China is ASEAN's largest trading partner, I should say. How important is this relationship, economically speaking, for some of these smaller countries?
Oh, it's absolutely critical. These countries really depend on being part of that global supply chain where China is an integral part and hub for that supply chain flow. The countries depend not only on exports to China, but also imports of other intermediate goods where they could add value and then ship it back to China for further reassembly and further development. So the integration of trade among the ASEAN countries is absolutely critical. And right now, the question is, when China is turning inward and looking toward itself as a source of domestic growth, how will the trade continue in the future? And one of the things that many of these countries are depending on is in China's upgrading of its own industries, these countries will benefit because many of those manufacturing jobs will be exported into these ASEAN countries.
So President Xi Jinping talked about China not being interested in being in hegemony. What does that mean to you when you hear him say that?
Well, as part of the reemergence of China as a global power, China has also demonstrated it is a significant military power, not only in terms of its incursions in the South China Sea, as we just mentioned in that beginning piece, but also in its military hardware buildup, and also its intrusions of airspace of Taiwan. These issues, I think, bring into question how it is that China will deal with the ASEAN countries on a military basis.
So the Philippines President Duterte, he was critical of China over the South China Sea. How does that affect, or where do the bilateral relations between these two stand as a result?
It's pretty tense, isn't it? But I think President Xi is trying to, in his latest speech, reassure everyone that China seeks to have peaceful relations. Now the question is, will it put its money where its mouth is and demonstrate how peaceful relations will shape up over the next 30 years?
So no representative from Myanmar, an ASEAN country, following its military takeover there. How is that country currently being viewed by the rest of ASEAN?
Well, you know, one of the things about ASEAN is that the countries there vary in stages of political development, varying levels of democracy, and the role of the military in government is something that's still being worked out domestically and also mutually among the bilateral and group relations. China has a really important role to play here because it can serve as a leader in showing what the world can use as a model for an integration of military civilian leadership. And I think that's something that the countries are looking forward to.
William, you're in Washington, I'm in Washington. All of this is happening over there. What are the politicians here who might be watching it? What do you think their takeaways from all of this?
Oh, I guarantee you that our Defense Department in the U.S., the State Department are watching the relations develop as, like hawks, because they will give us clues as to how China wants to deal with the U.S. The tensions right now have been eased a bit with the bilateral talks between President Biden and President Xi. Essentially, President Xi said, hey, no, we've got to cool things down a bit. And President Biden has agreed that's really the way to go. We have to have competition and not aggression. And I think we need guarantees that those will be the ways, the rules of the road going forward. And the relations within ASEAN will be a clue as to how those rules of the road will develop.
William Lee from the Milken Institute, thank you as always.